Welcome to a video on the AxisPanner component. We're going to start here in the bloodstream world, and you'll see that we're sitting inside a blood vessel. There are red blood cells and also a couple of types of white blood cell floating in the world. Stationary. If I turn around and I adjust this slider, you'll see they start to move through the blood vessel. I've colored a couple green so you can see what happens, which is they loop around. That green one just went out of view and it's going to come back around and start again here. We can control the speed of this with this slider here. Let's build this from scratch in a basic film in an empty world to show you how it works. Here we're on an empty world, and like always, we're going to need a cube to start. That thumb injury is still making things interesting, but we'll deal with it. I can't use my touchpad right now, basically. So create new box. I've given the box a default shiny material. That'll become clear white in a second when we start making it move. But for now, it's just going to be a bit bright. On the box, we're going to need to create a parent object. The parent object here, usually in the aligner components, is what controls the operation, but in this case it doesn't. It does, however, need to have a controlling component on it, which we haven't seen before. That is called an authority time base. The authority time base supplies a speed signature to the AxisPanner component. To get that, we're going to do attach component utility authority time base. It has a number of properties. All we need to worry about is base speed, which we set to a speed we'd like everything to move at. I've set this to 5. And then we're done with the the authority time base. I'm going to leave that over to the left because we'll need it in a second. For AxisPanner operations, I recommend that you either make them non-grabbable, which we're going to do in this case, or use the slider component. We'll cover the slider component in a subsequent video. So I'm going to remove the grabbable component and carry on. Here we'll attach a component, transform drivers AxisPanner. You'll see AxisPanner takes the time base, so we'll plug it in. It takes speed. The speed is multiplied by the base speed here. So if I put 1 here, it is 1 times 5, which is 5. And if I put 2 here, it will operate at speed 10. This lets you have different objects that move at a different speed throughout your video, throughout your animation. Here, because we're just going to do one object, we're going to leave it at 1. The range is how far it can move along this path. And so I'm going to set that to 40. That means it can move 40 units along the path, and you'll see away it goes. The parent here is the starting point, and you'll see it travels along the z-axis. That is controlled by the axis property here, z1. And it will move along, and then when it goes out of range, it will appear again at the start. We can also set here a reference scale. So if we set this to 111, which is the current size of the cube, and then we put the scale property from the top into the scale property here, the cube will now shrink as it reaches the end of the range and expand as it comes into the center of the range. We can also duplicate the cube and have more than one cube loading, but here we can adjust it with the offset. 0.1 is too little. Now we've got 2 cubes, still too little though, so I'm going to increase this to 2. There you go. Now we've got 2 cubes traveling. We can keep going. And on this one, we'll do 2, but then also, let's say, 4 on the y-axis. And now we've got 3 cubes. If I deselect everything, it gets rid of the gizmos and makes the effect kind of more complete. Because of this multiplier, I can set that top cube to have a faster speed. So we'll go for 2. Now you'll see it whizzes past, but these two don't. That's about it for the AxisPanner. There's a bunch more components here that you can try, properties which you can try playing with. I don't know what they do, so I won't be explaining them. You can also drive this with logics, which is what's happening with the slider in the Bloodstream world. This could be useful for sort of background animations. The idea that came to mind when I was just looking at it right now is a city world with flying cars where you use an AxisPanner to animate a car going past your window or something. The Bloodstream world is also a fantastic example of this at play. Let's head back to the Bloodstream world and inspect what's going on there. So here we are back in the Bloodstream world, and I'm going to grab my dev tooltip and inspect the lymphocyte here. And you'll see that there is a AxisPanner here. It's got that authority time base that we set up. It's got a speed and a range, an offset, a reference scale, and it's traveling along. If we go up a level, all of the items here have got the same AxisPanner on them. They've slightly different settings, so this one has a different speed or a different range. And then all the way at the top in the property called flow is our authority time base. And you'll see here when I drag the slider, the authority time base changes. And when I drag it all the way to 0, it stops the blood cells. The slider component's also being used here to allow you to move them around. If you use grabbable here, then weird things will happen. So just keep in mind, if you want them to be movable within the AxisPanner, use slider. Try it out. Let me know what you think. I thought it was super cool to find an old world, take it apart, see how it works, and then make a tutorial based on it. Big thanks to Frooxius for making this world originally. It was published 500 days ago. Yep, 501 days ago. It's amazing that it still works. Thank you.